Hey, what's up? It's Ashley. Welcome to my channel. I'm here with my last wrap up for 2022. Now, I am a teacher, so I did have about 2 weeks off for the month of December. So I did read 25 books this month, and a lot of them, I don't remember a lot of details. So we're gonna try to get through this as best as we can. We're gonna see what a mess this is gonna be. All right, so first off this month, I did read Fake Empire. I didn't really like this book. I rated it a 2.5. I actually talked about it in my most disappointing reads of 2022. And the reason this was just so disappointing was because it was pushed to me as a Rose and Connor meets Mile High Club kind of book. It is arranged marriage. And I just was bored with it. And you know, it might be due to the fact that I was coming off of November, which was an extremely high reading month for me, which I loved almost every book I read. And this one, I skimmed it a lot and I just wanted it to be done. Then I read Brutal Obsession, and I actually originally read this on my Kindle, but it was one of those cases where I loved it so much I absolutely had to buy the physical copy. So this was a new release at the beginning of the month. This is a bully hockey romance. It is a college romance, and obviously it is between a hockey player and a dancer. And what makes this story interesting is that in the prologue, our two main characters have a car collision with each other, and it leaves our heroine in rehab, and she is no longer able to dance the same way again. Well, during this collision, our hero realizes he's gonna lose everything. He's gonna lose his hockey future. So the girl that he is currently in the car with, he swaps her spots, puts her in the driver's seat, and then just hightails it home. Well, the girl ends up ratting him out. He spends a night in prison, and the charges mysteriously get dropped, and he is able to just go on with his life. Flash forward 6 months later when our book picks up, and these two are now students together at the same college. And she dropped the charges. You find out that she was threatened with this information. He is afraid that she is going to destroy his hockey career with this information, and so he does everything in his power to take her down. I would say the best way to describe him, he was a lot like Nate from Euphoria with his actions and choices and just things that he was willing to do to cross the line. It was really scary being inside of his mind, but oh, it was a trip. It was really interesting, and it was one of my favorite reads of the entire year. Next book, I should have mentioned it in my favorite books of 2022, and I didn't, and I don't know why. Probably because I read it in December and things were wrapping up and I just didn't think about it for that year. But anyway, so it is Transcendence by Shay Savage. This is an older book. I believe it was released in 2013 or 2014, and this is the most out there, different romance book I have ever read, and it quickly became one of my all-time favorites. So this is a time travel caveman romance, and it is entirely in the POV of Ed, our caveman. It is the most beautiful love story I have ever read about. So the very beginning of the story, Ed has been separated from his tribe. They all died tragically years before, and he's been alone for a really long time. And then he comes across a girl, and she is obviously dressed in a different way. Most of the book, because it's in his POV, he's a caveman, so there's like really no dialogue at all. These two cannot speak to each other. It's a lot of him trying to understand what she's saying. Well, you can see from his POV, he's trying to figure out what she's doing, where she's from. The epilogue was absolutely beautiful. It brought everything full circle, but I absolutely loved this story. Such a perfect 5-star read. And then after I was done, I did purchase the novella, which is from the female's perspective. So it was really short, but it tackled the important stuff from the original book if you wanted to see it in her side. So you don't have to, but I just kind of wanted the full story, and I really, really loved it. Then I read The Darkest Note. This is part 1 of a bully romance trilogy. It is between a rock star and an aspiring musician. They are high school students at liberal arts school, and this is kind of one of those hidden mistaken identity trope books. So at the beginning of the book, like the very, very beginning, the school is having this showcase night of performances, and our heroine is new to the school, but she has huge time stage fright. So one of the teachers helps her out by kind of suggesting to her that she takes on a new identity when she performs on stage. So she wears a wig and everything like that. And our hero, who is the leading rock star in a band with his brothers, he falls for her when she's performing this first night, and he's kind of like trying to hunt for her. You get to where our story picks up. She is new at this school, and the problem is she took the spot of our hero's best friend who was kicked out of school. Like, this is a small private school, so like it's maxed out at a certain number. So he was kicked out of school and she took his spot, and so he finds out that if he can get this girl to leave, his best friend will get the spot back. So he spends this entire book trying to tear her down, embarrass her in class, break down her singing and all of that, and try to get her to go. Obviously, this is one of those stories because it's a bully that she is struggling at home. She's really poor. It's just her and her sister in the house. She's trying to have money to keep the lights on and all of that. So this was part one in a trilogy. It ended on a cliffhanger. I do want to continue on, but I knew that if I was going to binge all three back to back, I was going to forget a lot of the story, because that typically does happen to me if I binge trilogies or series altogether. But I did enjoy this. It was a solid, good bully romance. Then I read Love in the Wild. This was a modern day Tarzan retelling. I really enjoyed this. So our heroine, she is traveling in the jungle. I think she's like a journalist or something like that. And these poachers, or like hunters, show up and they kill everybody in her like research group except for her. And so our hero, who is the Tarzan of the story, he ends up saving her, takes her back to his like tree hut and everything. Half of the story is spent in the jungles of Africa, and then the other half is spent in London, where our hero originally was from. Our heroine is able to discover through clues in the jungle where he came from, and so she takes him back to society and to his family. And I just really liked it. I will say though, I did enjoy the first half in the jungle more than I enjoyed the second half when they went to London, but if you like Tarzan retellings, this was a solid good one. Then I read The Sinner by Chantal Tessier. I read The Ritual in January. It was one of my absolute favorite books of the year. The Sinner is a companion novel, so it's the next one in the series. So this is a very dark college romance. Look up trigger warnings. It's not going to be for everybody, but you have this fictional college, Barrington University, and they are training men to become lords when they graduate. And lords, they do a lot of crime things. They're rich. It's just a thing. And so for the first 3 years of their education, they have to do these tasks that the lords give them to do. And during these 3 years, they have to stay celibate. They are not to sleep with any girls. So then by their senior year, they are rewarded for doing a good job by given a chosen girl. And a chosen girl is on the list of who they are able to have. She basically belongs to them. They have to go through this whole ceremony ritual in front of all the other lords, proving that she is his. And so the second novel it's basically the same thing. However, this one was different in the sense that our heroine was not a chosen. She was not on the list. And so our hero, Sin, he didn't care. He had a chosen that they picked for him, but he's like, nope, I want this to be her. This was probably the kinkiest book I have ever read in my life. I did really enjoy the story. However, it did get to a certain point where I found myself skimming pretty much every single spicy scene because it was just so much. It was taking over the entire book, and it was just smut after smut after smut. And I am a person like, yeah, I like a good smut, but I like it if it's good for the plot of the story. And like when I'm looking at romance recs, I'm not looking for the spiciest book. Like I don't care about that. Honestly, I would prefer a good closed door romance if the plot is really good over a heavy spicy book where the plot, it just sucks. And so this one, the plot was good. It just had way too many spicy scenes that I found myself skimming over. But I did really enjoy this. Our heroine, she went through some deep, deep shit. She was sexually abused by her stepfather. She was sexually abused by a lot of other powerful men that were basically passing her around and sharing her. It was heavy. Like I said, it is not going to be for everybody. Then I finally got around to the Folk of the Air trilogy with the Cruel Prince, the Wicked King, and the Queen of Nothing. This was fun. I love these. I don't know why it took me so long to finally pick them up, but I really enjoyed it. This is a good enemies to lovers. Yeah, I won't say much about it because I feel like pretty much everybody's read it, or you at least know what it's about. But what I did find really intriguing that I did not know going into this was that Jude, our leading character, she was stolen away from the mortal world when she was a child, and I did not know that. I thought this was like purely taking place in other lands, like there was no mortal world. So I thought that was really interesting, and overall this was a solid 4-star series. Then I read books 5 and 6, I think, of Planet Barbarians. I had read the first 4 last December, so I picked it back up again because I felt like it's snowing outside. Perfect time of year to read. So, I mean, not much about it. It's just a continuation. You have your blue ice planet barbarians and the girls that crashed on this planet. I will say I did enjoy 6 more than 5 because 6 was a good enemies to lovers. You could feel it from the beginning, and I thought that was very different from the others because a lot of them, you know, they want to mate with these people, and this one, the girl was completely devastated and upset when she found out that this was the person that she was going to be mated with, and she kind of wanted to do everything in her, like, she wanted to take out the cooey thing that like mates them, and she wanted to get a new one. So I enjoyed it. It was a lot of good tension. So solid 4 stars for both of them. Then I read the Broken series by Chloe Walsh. This is the same author who wrote Binding 13 and Keeping 13. Those were 2 of my absolute favorite books of the year. So I decided to kind of go through Chloe Walsh's backlog and read. And this was a great series. So it is a 4-part book series of the same couple. A lot of drama happens to them. Kyle, our hero, he was really messed up. Basically, this whole series is him trying to get her back because he keeps messing up. But I absolutely loved it. So it is a college romance. Kyle is obviously, he's a man whore, okay? And then we have our heroine, and she is new to Denver, and she moves in with Kyle and his 2 roommates. They are all in college, but she is not. She basically ran away from her home in Alabama, I think. Right before graduation. She didn't get to graduate high school at all, and so she moved in with her best friend who used to live in Alabama, and she now lives in Denver and goes to college with these 2 guys. So she allowed her friend to come move in, and that's where her and Kyle meet, and I really, really liked it. I will say that this is one of those stories where you do have a very like clear-cut villain from the beginning, and it's, you know, obviously it's a woman who thinks that she owns our hero, and it's just a lot of drama. And then also, Kyle was a billionaire. And the interesting thing about this is he didn't want to be. So prior to the beginning of the story, Kyle was a bastard baby, and his mom was a druggie, and she died pretty early on, and he was placed in foster care. Well, his paternal grandfather ended up finding him, and he was very, very wealthy, and he took him in because his son wanted nothing to do with him. Kyle is raised by his grandfather, and he kind of gets reintroduced into his father's life, and he hates his father. His father is not a good guy because when his grandfather died, he left the entire empire to Kyle instead of his son. And obviously, his dad is not okay with that. Kyle doesn't want any of this responsibility, so he has a lot of conflict. But then obviously, you know, that's why you're gonna have your evil villain female that thinks that she owns him because of all the dollar signs that come with him. But like I said, a lot of drama, but it was a fun read. Okay, I won't talk about this next one too long because I've rambled on about it in a lot of videos lately, but I reread Credence. It was my favorite book of the year. I read it in January, so I had to reread it again for Christmas time. Love that I did. I got to annotate it this time around, and I had a lot of thoughts. I had so much fun. I loved this even more the second time around, if that's even possible. But yeah, perfect Infinity Star read. I read First Down and Breakaway by Grace Riley. These are the first 2 books in a companion novel sports college romance series. I really enjoyed this. So it's about a group of brothers who share a house at the same university. So our first brother is James. He is a football star, and this is a fake dating book. And I will say it reminded me a lot of Blindside, but parts of it I liked better. And I think it was the reason that they were fake dating that I liked better. And it was because our heroine, she had a toxic ex that was on the football team that had basically been harassing her and trying to get her back. She wanted to be left alone. He wouldn't keep his hands to himself. And so James kind of comes in and he fake dates her to keep this other guy away from her. Well, obviously they fall for each other. James is the type of guy who is willing to give up his football career for her. A lot of sports romances you read, you have the guy who's not willing to give up his dream, like, until towards the end. It's very, very, like, clear halfway through the story that James will put his career and everything to the side for her. And obviously that's where conflicts are going to come in, because his dad is a former NFL star, and his dad is not okay with him putting football to the side for a female, because James had previously gotten in trouble at his old college for a girl, and he kind of promised his dad that he was never going to do it again. So you have those conflicts, but it was a solid 4-star. I really liked it. And then Breakaway is his middle brother, and this is a hockey romance, and it is Coach's daughter. I really liked this. I will say I didn't like it as much as the football one, but I did enjoy it. I feel like when you read Coach's daughter, you want certain conflicts to be in the story, and this one didn't have it. So I think that's probably why I didn't like it as much. I read Tattered by Devney Perry. This was my first Devney Perry read, and I really liked it. So this is a secret baby trope, which I know a lot of people don't like those books, but you know what? I don't mind them, maybe because I'm a mom, and yeah, it's life. So our two characters, they have a passionate night in New York one evening, and then they don't see each other after that. So you flash forward 6 years, and our heroine, she owns a bar in a small town in Montana, and our hero has come to town to purchase some properties or something like that. I can't remember. I'm so sorry. But he goes out to the bar one night, and he sees her, and he remembers her right away. She remembers him. Now, I think the reason that I liked this book so much is because some of my biggest gripes with secret baby romances is that our heroine doesn't tell our hero, like tries to keep it from him or is too scared to tell him. And then you spend a good half your book really frustrated. And then of course the hero will get mad and the heroine is wondering why. Well, duh. No. In this story, basically as soon as she sees him, she says, I need you to sit down. I need you to take a drink. You're going to need a drink, and then I'm going to tell you something. It was in this chapter, like chapter 1 or 2. She says, listen, we got to talk. And I really, really loved that. So then obviously right away you're able to have your story where our hero Logan is trying to win over his daughter, and he's falling for his daughter's mother in the process. And it was just a beautiful story, and I really liked it. I did really like the conflicts that Logan had, because Logan had a career and everything in New York, and he was trying really, really hard to get his daughter and our heroine to move there. They didn't want that. They wanted the small town life, and so it was all up to him to give it all up and move for them. But it was just a beautiful story, and I liked it. And I read Midnight Valentine by J.T. Geisinger. If you've read Pen Pal by this author, I would highly recommend this book. This was incredible. Our heroine, she is new to Seaside, Oregon, which I love Seaside. I've been there many times before. It's a pretty cool story I live. And she is opening up a B&B because it was always her dream and her late husband's dream to open this B&B. And she gets there and she meets this man, Theo, in a diner, her first night there, and he's just staring at her, and he gets really angry and just storms out. Well, you find out he is the local contractor, and he is mute. And he's the only one that can work on her house. And as he's working on her house and they get closer, she starts to see that there are a lot of characteristics and things about him that are exactly like her late husband. And it's very scary, the similarities between the two. And you find out that Theo has been mute for about the same time since her husband died. And it's just a crazy story, and it's so beautiful, and I absolutely loved it and how everything wrapped up. It was a perfect 5-star for me. And I read Freezing the Puck. This was a really short book. It was like just under 200 pages. This was an accidental pregnancy, hockey, college romance. It wasn't like the most revolutionary thing I ever read, but it was quick, it was easy, and I wasn't bored. So obviously our two characters, they have a one-night stand at a college party. Our heroine ends up pregnant. I will say what did make this enjoyable was our hero and how he reacted. Basically, as soon as he found out she might be pregnant, he ran to the store, got her tests, took care of her, and he was just trying to win her over the whole book. Like, this was his family. He was going to make it him. The only conflict really that was in this book was that he was going to be graduating at the end of the year, and he knew that he was going to be signing with a California team. They lived in Boston, and so people around him were trying to convince him to sign with Boston instead, but California had been his dream. And so that's really your only conflict, but it was still an easy read if that's what you're looking for. Then I read Brutal Intentions. This was a mafia story. It was also shorter. I think it was just under 300 pages. It's between a teenage girl and her stepfather. Her stepfather is on the younger side. I believe he's 28 or 29, and his marriage to her mother was arranged by their families, obviously, because mafia. And yeah, it wasn't like my favorite. It was just something to read and pass the time. Like, it wasn't the best Mafia book I ever read because there really wasn't a whole lot of Mafia to it. It was just more of the forbidden and the taboo. I will say, though, this does have big time braiding kink. So if that's not your forte, or is your forte, try it or don't. Okay, and then my final book of the month and my final read of 2022 was Believe Me. This is the last novella in the Shatter Me series. I love this. This was entirely in Aaron Warner's POV, which was so fun in itself. Aaron Warner is one of my favorite book boyfriends of all time. And so I love being in his mind. This whole novella is basically getting ready for his wedding with Juliet. So it's just a lot of romance and sweet times with a little bit of strategic war stuff. It was just a nice, easy 177-page read to end on New Year's. Okay, well, that is all 25 books that I read for the month of December. And like I said, that wraps up my 2022 reads. So yeah, this was an exciting year. I read some really great reads. December was a little bit more disappointing for me because I was in quite a bit of a slump. And to be honest, I was speeding through a lot of books to get to 200. So I'm really, for January and 2023, I'm going to just slow it down and really stick with quality over quantity. So until next time, bye.